Welcome back to MacVoicesTV. This is the Talk of the Mac community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. We're on the road to Macworld 2010, and we're going to talk to some of the people who are going to be there presenting, covering the show, exhibiting at the show, and just some friends of ours. This time around, guesting from Mac Notables, we have Mr. Bryan Chaffin of the Mac Observer, the Apple Context Machine, the Atomic Love Bombs. Let's see, what else? Bryan, it's good to have you.
Thanks, Chuck. It's great to be here, as always.
Hey, thanks a lot for engaging in our little video trial. We're having fun with this. It's nice to finally get to see people instead of just hear them.
Oh, for sure.
Okay, so we have Macworld 2010 coming up in just a few days as we shoot this. We also have, of course, an iPad announcement. Oh, good, that was nice. So let's start with the iPad. What's your take on it? I'll just leave it very open-ended.
Open-ended. Well, the thing I've been going on the most about in my own writings about the device is that all the noise about what people can't do with it doesn't matter. They're all just wrong, because the success of the iPad is going to hinge entirely on what it can do, not what it can't do. And so, it's very easy to project the iPad into your current workflow or play flow or life flow and understand how it won't work. It doesn't matter. It's not why people are going to buy it or not buy it. What they're going to buy it for is what it can do. And that kind of harkens back to Steve Jobs' premise of whether or not they could make a device that does some things better than a laptop and some things better than a smartphone. As Steve said it, if it can't do things better than a laptop and better than a smartphone, has no reason for being. And that is so huge. It's something that Jeff and I were talking about on our recent Apple Context Machine, is that, all the other companies out there, all the PC manufacturers, all the guys that are making netbooks, they ask themselves one question: can we make it cheaper than a laptop? Can we make it small? Well, two questions. Can we make it cheaper than a laptop and smaller than a laptop? That's where they stopped, because the answer to that is yes. The answer to that was a clear yes. And that was it. So, Apple didn't start with that question, or didn't stop with that question, I should say. They started with, is there anything that it can do better than these other classes of device? And if it can do those things, the things that Steve identified were browsing, email. I'm trying to remember. So browsing, email, watching videos, writing email. I already said that. There were 7 things, and I can't remember them off the top of my head. But if it can do even some of those things better than a laptop, better than a smartphone, the thing is going to be a huge hit.
Bryan, I agree with you completely. What strikes me so much about the discussions that have been going on about the iPad is that they want to compare it to a netbook, and they're saying, no, it's not a netbook because it doesn't meet the same criteria, and it doesn't cost as little as a netbook. And I'm sitting there thinking, okay, I hear people talking about netbooks for email access, for web surfing, and like you say, for watching videos, maybe a little music, maybe bare bones word processing. This looks like the iPad will do all of this. It'll do so much more, and it'll do it much more elegantly.
Well, it will. I mean, I don't think that I will be very surprised if there are large numbers of people that do a lot of typing on this device, unless they're using the attached keyboard, or the keyboard with the dock, I should say. But other than that, I think that it is going to be just a fantastic platform for watching your videos and browsing the web, and even checking your email, despite the fact that there's some writing involved there. And of course, playing games, that's going to be a huge thing. That was one of the other 7 things that Steve mentioned. So, yeah, just the long and the short of it is, I don't think this product would have been released if they didn't feel that the answer to those questions was yes. And of course, keep in mind, clearly Apple tailored that list of 7 things to the 7 things that it thought that it could do better, right? They may well have said, well, we want it to be the best mathematical function equation solving device on the market, and they couldn't do it. That's a silly example, but we saw a list that was tailored to the preconceived answer that they wanted, which was yes. And if they are right, and it looks like they're right to me, I haven't held the device yet, This is going to sell like hotcakes.
Yeah, and you have to expect a certain amount of spin. I mean, Steve is known for his presentations, but everybody spins things a little bit. I just keep looking at this and thinking pages, keynote, numbers, right out of the box it puts us into a productivity arena, which is something I'm very excited about.
This is my old man face.
What does that mean?
Long inside joke. They did put these apps out first, the iWork suite, and I'm sure that there are going to be people that are attracted to that. That personally doesn't float my boat tremendously. I think I'd rather do that sort of thing on a computer. Keeping in mind that I haven't tried it on an iPad yet, but they certainly made it clear that you can do those kinds of things at the very least, and that is important.
And the fact that they introduced them, as you say, right up front, obviously there are 140,000 other applications, give or take a few, that are going to be available. But they made a big thing of saying iWork is right out there. In fact, there were so many rumors about a new version of iLife. iLife never showed, but iWork did.
Well, you would think that at least some aspects of iLife would show at some point. They almost have to show up for the iPad.
Yeah, at some point.
At some point.
Yeah. Bryan, you indicated that you're more excited about doing those things on a computer. Okay, you're something of a creative. You're a journalist, obviously, but you're also a musician. What do you expect?
I'm a journalist.
You're sure? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a journalist.
You're a journalist. What from other perspectives, from a journalist perspective, from a creative perspective, do you see the iPad as fitting into what you want to do?
No, I don't. But I don't think it's aimed at me. Not entirely, at the very least. I mean, the things that I think about doing. One of the things I published last week was a call for action, and I'll extend it to your watchers/listeners here. Send me an email about what you would do with an iPad, and we're going to be publishing probably starting Wednesday the 3rd. We're recording this on Tuesday the 2nd. But the point is that everyone kind of sort of sees this device within the context of their own world, and I'm really, really interested in how people do see that. So when I personally see it, I see browsing the web at night, getting in bed, catching up on the news, catching up on any kind of reading that I felt like I needed to do, maybe playing a game before I go to sleep, that sort of thing. I see it more for that sort of really casual use than I do for me, again, serious work. Am I answering your question?
Yeah, because I see it the same way. I guess I look at it as having the ability to take a lot more material with me to make my time wherever I am more productive, more conveniently. I can take a 13-inch MacBook with me now. In fact, I don't have an Air, but I could take an Air with me too. But there's something about this form factor that just, from where I sit, has the potential to make it much more convenient to do that 5-minute bit of web browsing, or that 5 to 7 minute piece of video watching that right now just doesn't justify pulling out a laptop and opening it up.
Right.
And you can do it with the iPhone. Don't misunderstand. This just is going to be a much more satisfying experience if that's what you really want to do.
Well, I think especially for reading, it's going to be a much, much more satisfying experience. I think that consuming any kind of newspaper or ebook is going to be just, a dream. My business partner, Dave Hamilton, is very much about not reading with backlit screens. Personally, I like it. And I think that I'd actually be more interested in an ebook on an iPad form factor than I am certainly on the Kindle. I'm very much a paper guy. I love books. I'm an old school book guy. I've got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of books. But I would try an ebook on an iPad at the very least.
That's interesting, because I didn't know that about Dave. As much of a computer geek as he is, I would have thought he would be happy with the backlit screen.
Can't stand it. Puts him on tilt. Puts him on massive tilt.
See, I'm with you. I kind of like it.
I do too. For Dave, it's an issue. I think if I remember correctly, his eyes get less tired when he's reading a Kindle, at least from his perspective. Of course, keep in mind that neither of us have tried the iPad yet.
Yeah, we're doing all this speculation, but
Well, I mean, Dave too. I mean, Dave hasn't tried it yet either, and he may continue to hate it. But for me, I'd be much more interested in the experience on an iPad than I am on a Kindle.
okay. So that brings up the K word. What does the iPad do to the Kindle market? I know what I think, but I'm curious to see what you think.
It'll probably grow it.
Interesting. Why?
Well, I think that, and I think that even the PC tablet market is going to grow because of the iPad. I think that we're going to see the iPad do to the rest of the tech industry the same way that the iMac did with USB. USB was around long before Apple introduced it on the iMac, or made the iMac USB only, I should say. But it wasn't until Apple released the iMac that was USB only that the entire market took off, including the PC world. So I think we're going to see a lot of Windows tablets, and I think they're going to be more successful than they have been in the past. And I think that there's going to be a raising of awareness for the Kindle. Plus, Amazon's going to be put into more of a competitive mode with the device to begin with because of the iPad, and that's going to make it more attractive. So, if anything, the whole market's going to grow.
I'm really intrigued to hear you say that, though, about the tablet PCs, because the tablet PCs have sort of been stalled. They are what they are, and the iPad is not a tablet Mac.
It is not a tablet Mac, that's for sure. And we asked. I remember writing a column. I don't remember exactly what I said. It was years ago, but I was just talking about the fact that despite having a blueprint from Apple on how to do things like the iPod right, no one could make a device that was as easy to use as the iPod. Google had the blueprint of the iPhone when they were crafting Droid, and I don't really think it comes close to the iPhone. And I don't expect anyone to be able to duplicate the tablet, but the tablet itself is going to raise interest. It's going to raise awareness everywhere.
From a mobile computing perspective?
Yeah, people are going to be more aware of tablets. Right now, Microsoft, I don't want to get off on a long Microsoft rant, but they always make their products for how they want to make money on them, for lack of a better term. Actually, I think that's probably the best way I've ever said that. Microsoft's especially its Windows products. They make Windows products they design them around how it is they want to make money from them, and not necessarily how people want to use them. And so, heretofore with their tablet market, with their tablet products, I think they've been aimed poorly. They've been aimed very, very, very poorly. And with the blueprint from the iPad, they're still not going to duplicate it, but I think that they'll be sent in a better direction. I think certainly the Chinese manufacturers are probably going to be able to do a better job of coming closer to that iPad experience. I mean, there's all kinds of reasons why no one's going to be able to duplicate the iPad, including the fact that Apple does control the whole widget, no one else does, and that's always going to leave everybody else at a competitive disadvantage in terms of everything but price. But with awareness raised, it's going to be easier for them to sell devices that are also tablets.
Another thing that strikes me is the proliferation of apps that are going to run on this thing right out of the box. Now, we know there are going to be some photography apps that don't apply, and some GPS and those kind of things, but at 140,000, let's just say you trim it down to 130,000. That's a lot of apps that are.
Call it 100,000.
Yeah, call it 100.
It's still a lot of apps.
I mean, and that's just an amazing launch to a new platform, if you will, or an enhanced platform from the iPhone. Something that it's going to be difficult for anybody else to step into this kind of market. I mean, Google Droid, Nexus, all of that. They're trying to get app stores up and running. They're trying to get apps up and running, but it's going to be a long time. And here's Apple leveraging their existing platform. So whole different situation, and it just seems to increase the likelihood of success for the iPad.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, the fact that it can, there are people who complain loudly and vociferously about the fact that you can only run App Store apps, and they want to be able to run anything that they want to. And I understand that desire, but having all those apps available for it right out the door, like you said, is definitely a very much competitive advantage, that no one else can touch. But I really think that it's going to take the release of many thousands of apps that specifically take advantage of the iPad's form factor that really send that aspect of the platform into overdrive.
Yeah, agreed. It's going to be very interesting to watch, but it's certainly exciting to see this, and the developers certainly have been given plenty of time to take their best apps to enhance them for the iPad, if nothing else, just the graphical part, but maybe to add some iPad-only functions or different screen layouts to take advantage of all that screen real estate that you're going to have.
Yeah, that's going to be one of the biggest things is just having more of a canvas to work with. That's going to be a big part of it. I mean, I've already seen a couple of mock-ups for some apps that are pretty compelling in my opinion, and the developer community should be positioned well to come up with some things that really impress us. That's what I think.
Bryan, I know you've done it on the Apple Context Machine, but I have to ask you here: compare and contrast Steve's presentation of the iPad with Ballmer's presentation of whatever it was that he was showing at CES.
It's funny. Steve Jobs dismisses Steve Ballmer as being a marketing guy, and he said that that's one of the problems with Microsoft is that they're led by a marketing guy, and yet Ballmer is so bad at marketing. So let's actually start with something that we covered today on Tuesday. That was some guy took the entire hour-long presentation and broke it down to 180 seconds. Did you see that video?
No, I have not yet.
So it's hi, it's great to be here. I want to talk about something amazing, special, amazing, beautiful, amazing, magical. And it's just cut to cut to cut to cut, where he's using all these superlatives, and it's kind of sort of, I mean, it's amusing. It's certainly amusing to watch because you basically get 180 seconds of people saying, and not just Steve, people saying magical and amazing and simple and easy and gorgeous and all kinds of things like that. But what I thought was a lot more important about that, and the reason why I think that possibly that particular presentation is going to be studied for a long time actually, is the way Apple is using language to position the product. Because all of those words, with the exception of maybe simple, all those words are the kinds of words that you would usually use to describe a person or maybe art. So Apple is positioning the iPad as being worthy of the language of art or even love. And they are masters of that. I'm sure that we could take every single keynote that Steve has done, particularly over the last 6-7 years, and kind of come up with the same kind of cuts like that. And that is, I mean, that's significant to me. That's very, very significant. It's part of that whole Apple brand. It's part of how it is that Apple has positioned all these products that it's released in the last several years. It's very significant.
It's an interesting point, Bryan, and we've talked about it before as Mac enthusiasts, that we have relationships with our devices, and that's not as weird as it sounds. It just is it. You can't help it, because these devices, you turn to them for work, for play,
we personify them.
And
no one personifies a PC.
No. People want to get away from a PC when they go home.
Unless, of course, it's calling your PC, a POS or a bastard, or that's the only kind of personification that is usually attached to a PC.
Yeah, and
It's very, very negative.
it really is interesting that you would say it that way, because you're right. You think of your iPhone, you think of your MacBook, you think of your desktop. Those are things that I don't know. I think most people enjoy using, as opposed to the old statement that I get to use a Mac, I have to use a PC.
Right, right, right. Well, so and this sort of thing is not accidental. I mean, there is no way it's just a mere coincidence that Scott Forstall uses all these superlatives. And actually, it's very interesting because I noticed that Phil Schiller's, and I can't specifically codify it for you right here because I didn't take notes, but Phil Schiller's superlatives were different from Steve's and different from Scott's. And there was a little bit of intertwining, but there were some key words that were only repeated by each of those guys. And there's no way it's accidental. I mean, I'm sure that there is a lot of psychology and it's not just Steve's gut instinct and being a brilliant speaker. It's not just that. There's a lot of psychology going into how they're doing this.
Looking at Ballmer's presentation, you almost had to feel sorry for him, because there's Steve. He had this unbelievably cool device to show. And Ballmer, I mean, I'm sorry, but he's got something that really doesn't appear to introduce anything new. It's just a tablet PC. If there's anything new about it, I confess, I missed it. Now, I may be biased, but there was no whiz-bang, golly wow.
To be fair to Ballmer, he only spent about 90 seconds. I mean, we were told to expect, something huge and amazing and key coming out of that presentation, but that was not Steve's fault that those kinds of things leaked the way they did. Steve Ballmer, it's not his fault, right? That we were kind of led to expect that in the hours leading up to his presentation.
Right. But on the other hand, couldn't he have done a little better job of at least trying, given those rumors, of trying to pump this device up instead of spending 90 seconds?
Well, I mean, you got to look at this thing. It's only a tablet computer. What are you going to do with it?
Folks, that's what I was hoping for. We have the world premiere of Brian's Ballmer impression here in video.
It's actually true. It is true.
That's great. So Macworld 2010, what do you have on the agenda? I know one thing you have on the agenda. In fact, I think I even know two things you have on the agenda, but both of them don't have anything to do with the show floor itself.
They don't. We're doing Cirque de Mac again this year. That's on Thursday the 11th, and the entertainment is by the Macworld All-Stars, of whom I am a member, full disclosure. That should be, the band's going to sound better than it's ever sounded. I mean, because I think we're up to like 12 rehearsals now, so so we really should be awesome.
You were awesome last year. I'm looking forward to this year.
It should be good. It should be really good this year. We've got, I think, some good songs that we're playing. It's a lot of the old favorites that we've done for years, but some fun new songs too. And we have a lot of interest in this in the party this year. It's interesting. Macworld is going to be smaller, but it's not going to be that much smaller, I don't think. I don't know. It could be. It could actually be that much smaller, but I actually think the show is going to be a success.
I think it's going to be a different show. I think that you can argue that in a lot of places it's going to be a better show because it may be smaller, so you're going to have the chance to make those connections that you want to make.
Well, Paul had told me that they've got 220 vendors signed on to exhibit at the show, and that to me is incredibly impressive.
Yeah,
incredibly impressive. And we're going to, we're going to see a show. I think that's just going to be a lot more relaxed. One of the things, I was talking to one of our staff writers, Nancy Gravely, and she was talking about how she got her approval for Press Pass in a couple hours. And you compare that to the days it would take before because everything had to go through Apple. In a lot of ways, good riddance. I like having Apple there, and I certainly, am going to be aware of the people that don't come because they can't see Apple's latest, doodad. But at the same time, for everyone that it is there, the show is going to be a lot more relaxed and a lot more productive.
I think, Brian, the people that don't come because of that, and I think, frankly, the exhibitors, the vendors who don't come because of that, have really, really missed a huge opportunity because now,
Yep.
I mean, the iPad is out there. Sure, it's going to be discussed. Everybody's going to be talking about it, but it's not going to compete for time with them and their products on the show floor. So,
Well, that's very true. But at the same time, we're going to see the first iPad accessories shown off there.
there you go.
Apple has given a boost to the show because now Macworld can have people talking about the iPad and showing off iPad products, or really, at the very least, prototypes.
Yeah. Folks, it's still not too late. Priceline or Hotwire, a flight to San Francisco and join us. There's still hotel rooms, and obviously you can walk into the show anytime. So,
Yeah, it's still there's going to be a lot of things to see, and if you have an interest in the Mac, the iPod, the iPhone, or the iPad platform, there's just going to be a lot to see, and if the show does even fairly well this year, it's going to be even bigger the year after, I think, because there's going to be a little adjustment as we learn to deal with life without Apple, or as we learn to celebrate life without Apple. And but the fact is that the rest of us still need this kind of show. The journalists need to be able to see the products. The vendors need to be able to show us the products. People are still want to see those products, and the vendors need to be able to reach out and talk to their potential customers. So we all still need the show. Just because Apple isn't there doesn't mean that our need has gone away.
yeah, agreed 100%. Now that's the Cirque du Mac party, and I believe that's on Thursday night.
Power to the people.
Power to the It's San Francisco. What would you expect? That's the Cirque du Mac is Thursday night, and then Friday night, I think there's a little something else you're doing.
Oh, I do have a little something else going on that night.
Yeah.
Well, after I stopped the Macworld Blast Party, because the House Rockers are playing the Macworld Blast Party. After that, I'm going to be at the Red Devil Lounge where the Atomic Love Bombs are playing a benefit. And it was such an awful introduction, but the Atomic Love Bombs is my day band, so to speak. And we are playing a benefit for Doctors Without Borders at the Red Devil Lounge. And we've got 3 other great bands that are opening up for us, Neighborhood Bullies, Farewell Typewriter, and Blackstone Heist. And the whole thing is a benefit for Doctors Without Borders. There's going to be a lot of people there. It's going to be a lot of fun. And we're going to be playing songs. This is the prop I mentioned. We're going to be playing songs off our first CD, which is called, try to get the glare out, it's called Let It Burn. Look at that. Isn't that gorgeous?
It is, and it's a terrific album. I own a copy, and let's see, if I remember correctly, you can hear that as the theme song for the Apple Context Machine, one of the tracks.
One of the tracks, Push Me Under, is the theme song for the Apple Context Machine, and we're also on iTunes and at atomiclovebombs.com. You can actually order a physical CD that would look a lot like this. Look at that. It's the real thing. Look at this. Look at this. Look at this stuff here. Look at that. See, that's quality stuff right there.
Yeah, this
Look at it. Oh, it's like all psychedelic and stuff. Look at that. Anyway, we have Chuck, you have been awesome enough to come see us in the past. We have got a fantastic set. We've got 4 or 5, 6 new songs that we're playing in addition to stuff off our CD, and our sound is really good. We've added a new person to the band. Lauren Allegri is adding a female voice to the vocals that we already had, and so we have I'm just to be blunt, even richer harmonies.
Oh, that's very cool. And I don't just say this because it's you, Brian, because not everybody likes the same kind of music, but you don't play the kind of music that I typically like. But I really like this. This is very much addictive. I think when we've talked in the past, we've compared it to the Strawberry Alarm Clock, the Amboy Dukes. How do you describe it? A post-'60s kind of thing?
Well, it's interesting. I mean, our sound is, we're West Coast neo psychedelia.
Okay.
And I usually call us a psychedelic garage band, with roots in the '60s. So it's we do have a lot of those '60s touches, like you mentioned the Strawberry Alarm Clock or Psychotic Reaction. I'm sorry, the Count 5 that did Psychotic Reaction, or mid '60s Stones.
Yes.
Maybe even some early Beatles. And then we also have a lot of influences like more modern bands like the Brian Jonestown Massacre or Black Rebel Motorcycle Club, the Dirt Bombs, the Warlocks, the Black Angels. Those bands are also really big influence. And our main songwriter Joe is just a fantastic songwriter. That guy. Do you know the song "100 Mile Free Fall"?
I do indeed.
So do you know what that song's about?
Not specifically. I know the lyrics, but I don't know.
Yeah, fair enough. And
The story.
there's no reason to actually realize that there's a specific story behind it, but this is one of Joe's gifts. The story is about a guy who went skydiving, and his chute didn't work. And so he's falling, and he knows he's going to die, and he starts doing swimming motions to try to amuse his family as he's falling to his death. And it's a horribly sad story. And Joe has this gift of hearing stories like that and being able to turn them into song. We've got a new song that I don't think we're going to play it that night, but it's called Morphine. It's about a soldier who died in the desert, strung out on morphine with his girlfriend's Dear John letter in his hands. It's another happy tune.
yeah. This just got really heavy all of a sudden, Brian.
Sorry, I wasn't trying to make it heavy, but that's Joe's he's a great songwriter. He's just a fantastic songwriter.
Yeah,
and I think we have a really good sound. I think I told you this before, Chuck, but most people when they tell you they have a band, your honest reaction is to kind of go, "Oh, that's great. Oh, really? That's nice." We don't suck.
No, listen, I'd be the first one to, as busy as Macworld weeks can be, if I
real easy to blow us off.
Yeah, it'd be very easy and say, hey, I've got this, I've got that. I don't care if you're playing at 2 a.m. I'm sorry, I can't make it. But I've seen you several times now, and I absolutely enjoy it. I'm looking forward to this one. I was overjoyed to see that you were going to be playing while I'm in San Francisco. So good job.
You're the best, Chuck. I appreciate it.
Good job.
It's a pretty big show for us. We are hoping to get as many people out as possible. To impress the promoter that's putting it on. So, there you have it. And with it being a benefit, it's one of the few times I can actually encourage my friends to pay.
Which begs the question, Brian, advance tickets show up at the door? Because the Red Devil Lounge is not the biggest place in the world.
Well, it's not the biggest place, but it does hold, I think, 350 people. So, it'll get packed that night. But you'll probably be able to show up and see us, I would imagine. Now, that said, advance tickets are cheaper. They're $7, and you can get them. There is a link at atomiclovebombs.com to where you can order those. It's $10 at the door, so it's cheaper to order them ahead of time.
Okay. And, of course, I'll have links in the show notes, to everything.
You're the best.
Yeah, we got to make sure the folks get out and see the Atomic Love Bombs. Of course, the Cirque du Mac party, that's something that's a little bit different animal. You got to know somebody or find someone who's giving away tickets.
Yep. And I tell you what, Chuck, why don't I give you 2 tickets to give away as you see fit?
Very cool. Thank you. Okay.
So shall we just set it up right now? Get right into you?
We'll set it up. The first 2 people that send me an email to chuck@macvoices.com with Atomic Love Bombs as the topic.
Get tickets to Cirque du Mac.
Get tickets to Cirque du Mac, yeah.
But we're not playing Cirque du Mac.
Yeah, that's okay. That's okay.
Okay, fair enough.
Works. That way they got to listen. They got to follow the rules.
I like the promotion. Thank you.
Yep. And I'll have I'm appearing several places at Macworld Thursday and Friday, so you'll be able to find me pretty easily to pick those tickets up. Brian, it's a blast. What else during the actual show? We've talked about your nighttime activities. Are you just going to be cruising the floor, checking out the products, and talking to vendors?
Macworld is always tough because we need to meet with people and we still need to cover the news. So yeah, I'm going to be on the show floor meeting as many people as I can and checking out new products. And I'm really interested to see what kind of iPad accessories are going to be shown that early other than cases. Because we've already seen some cases announced, which is, should be no surprise. But I'd be interested to see what other kinds of accessories people are going to be, dashing to market, which, by the way, I have a product idea that I imagine several people are jumping on already. But, people talk about the lack of a camera for this device. But the reality is that if you're holding it in your lap, the last thing you want is a camera that's going to do this while you're talking to someone. So, I think that some kind of attached camera via the dock that either clips to the iPad itself or is positioned in such a way on a nearby surface that you can talk to someone and have a video chat through a device. That should be a successful product.
Agreed.
Someone do it. Someone do it for me, please.
Yeah, and there's an Apple connection kit, an Apple camera connection kit. So part of the work sounds like it's already done. It's just a matter of running through that. So good point.
It does.
Good point.
And there's one last thing I should mention about the iPad. I've got a bet running with that's in the works right now. We haven't actually settled on the stakes, but one of our readers is named Bosco. He's a little bit curmudgeonly, and he is very against the closed system of the iPad and the iPhone. And he's been saying that it's not going to be a success because of this. I, of course, know that he's wrong because I'm Bryan. And so I bet him. I said, let's set some benchmarks. What do you think would define success or failure? And his initial response was 1 million units by March 2011, and I spotted him 2 million units. So, it'll be a failure if it doesn't sell 3 million units by March 2011. I think it'll sell a lot more than that. And I don't know what the stakes are going to be, but it's probably going to be the loser has to admit something embarrassing. That's the kind of safe stakes you can have. But so I'm going to end up having something at stake at the success of this device.
Good luck. I'm not sure I want to hear anybody's disturbing things admitted, but we'll take what.
Well, when I made a similar bet with John Keat about the success of the Power Mac, which I lost, I might add, I had to admit a band that I liked. An embarrassing band that I liked, and that embarrassing band was ABBA.
Okay. You don't strike me as an ABBA person, but...
Exactly. I'm too cool to like ABBA. How can I possibly like ABBA?
We all have guilty pleasures.
Exactly. So that's the kind of admission I'm talking about.
Okay. Bryan, I'm anxious to see you in San Francisco. I'm anxious to see all the viewers. It's going to be a whole lot of fun. If you're not in San Francisco and you're a Mac person, sorry, guys, you're making a big mistake. You're missing out.
Or an iPhone person.
Or an iPhone person. Or a potential iPad person.
An iPad person.
Or an iPod person.
An iPod person, yeah. Apple's world is big now.
Yeah.
I think they're a $50 billion a year company. I mean, that's crazy. That's just absolutely crazy. Did you see that I published an Apple death knell this week?
I did. I thought, oh my God, is this? I couldn't believe you still had that around. It just cracked me up.
I know. So, what we're talking about is we've had this project going for years now. That kind of actually built on something that David Pogue did a long time ago, where he gathered together a bunch of Apple death predictions from the 90s. And I wanted to catalog them, especially when I realized that a lot of the things that he had mentioned you couldn't find anymore. And so I kind of wanted to have them on record to be able to hold people's feet to the fire. And so and there are a lot more that I was never able to find, but we've got now 53 people proclaiming either the death of the Mac, the death of Apple, the death of the iPod, the death of the iPhone, and now the death of iPad. And when Apple has been doing as well as it's been doing, it's been years since we've actually been able to find someone that was proclaiming their impending demise. But John C. Dvorak came to the rescue and predicted that the iPad would be a failure.
I've come to respect John and his opinions. This one I think he's got wrong.
I used to he used to put me on tilt until I realized that he was trying to put me on tilt. And,
yeah.
And actually, one of the big things that changed me about John was watching his Tech TV show. Did you ever watch that show?
Not the Tech TV. I've been watching Cranky Geeks now, and I get a real kick out of it.
Well, he was doing an interview show where he basically talked to other tech people, and either journalists or industry executives, and did really fantastic interviews. And it was very clear that a lot of the stuff he says about Apple, he's clearly just making up. And I'm sure that's the case. But in this particular case, he's a stand-in for everybody else that says the iPad is going to be a failure.
We will see. We will see. But I'm with you. I think a 3 million bet is a pretty safe bet myself.
Oh yeah, they'll sell 3 million in the first quarter. Yeah. It's a sucker. It's a sucker's bet. Bosco, if you take it, you're a sucker.
Yeah, take it, Bosco. Take it. We want to hear something embarrassing. Bryan, I really appreciate the time. We got to do it more often. It's always a blast, and we always appreciate your insight.
Likewise, man. It's always great to be on your show. We should, in fact, do it more often. Actually, we should have you on the Apple Context Machine too.
Call me.
I know you like to be the man behind the curtain, but you have a lot to say, and I'm always interested to hear your perspective too.
Yeah, I appreciate it. It would be an honor.
All right, let's do it.
All right. I will see you in San Francisco in just a few days.
In just a few days, man. It's going to be great, and I hope to see everybody else there too.
Great. Folks, again, check out the MacVoices TV website for links to everything Bryan and I talked about. Be sure to mark down the Cirque du Mac party if you can get tickets, if you send me the email. And mark down, obviously, the Atomic Love Bomb show at the Red Devil Lounge. They will be two of the highlights of your expo experience, I promise. Until the next time, this is the Talk of the Mac community. I'm Chuck Joyner. Thanks for watching MacVoices TV. MacVoices TV is part of the MacVoices group and a member of Mac Level 10.